Well, with me now is the Conservative MEP Daniel Hannan, who can actually, with some modesty, claim that he was the one who thought of negotiate and then hold a referendum as a Conservative strategy. But as I understand it, you think what David Cameron says he wants is achievable, but it's not nearly enough. Would that be fair?
I think if the PM were to meet 100% of his declared goals, we would still be members on pretty much the existing terms. Now, some people are obviously going to support that, but it wouldn't be a new deal. The original plan was to have a sort of grand bargain with a new treaty where the federalist countries could go further with our goodwill and our permission, and we would take a few steps back. Plainly, that isn't going to happen in the kind of timetable that we're looking at. And I think that the British government is now therefore looking at changes that it can make domestically, changes that don't really need a new treaty, a new intergovernmental conference. And therefore, we're going to be left with something pretty limited, pretty truncated, very close to where we are at the moment. You know, we've had 40 years to decide whether or not we like it.
So given that, would you like to get on with it and hold the referendum fairly quickly?
Yeah, I mean, I've been asking for this referendum for, all my adult life in politics, Adam. I don't mind whether it happens this year or next year. The important thing is it's going to happen. And credit to the PM for honouring his word on that. And he's the first person to have given the country a say. But I do think we are in danger of missing a great opportunity here. We could have gone for a radically different deal where we are in the free market, covered by free movement of goods and services and capital, but outside everything else. Well, and people, but not benefits, yeah. Free movement of labour without free access to benefits, that would have been part of the deal. In fact, Guy Verhofstadt, who you were just talking to there, specifically called for this. He calls it associate membership. He specifically proposed it for Britain about 3 weeks ago, and he is in line with almost every other Euro-federalist. They all say this is the deal. Britain can stay in a privileged position in the single market, but outside the political union. Now, that, if I am any judge of what my constituents have been asking for in my mailbox, in my emails, in consergeries, that's what most people want. Free market, not political union.
That goes beyond what David Cameron is seeking, as you say. If he gets his deal, as you say, gets 100% or a large part of what he's proposing, and there is then a referendum, will you, as someone who would like to have gone further, will that be the end of it for you?
On the basis of the current declared negotiating aims, I will be voting to leave and to rejoin the wider world. I think we should have a relationship with Europe where we are trading with our friends and allies on the continent, collaborating, but living under our own laws.
I accept that, but all I'm saying is, will you accept that this referendum will be the end of it?
No. I mean, you don't come back Sturgeon-like and start asking for another go at it. I mean, this is final.
Yeah. So you would then recalibrate as a politician and say, well, we're staying in.
We wouldn't be having this conversation again. But which is why it is so important not to miss this opportunity. I mean, here is this generational chance to get the kind of deal that our parents thought they were voting for, and that I think we would benefit from now as a global country, an internationalist country, linked by our enterprising energies to every continent and archipelago, able to trade with Europe, but also able to raise our eyes.
Of course, the counter-argument to that, which is always made, is, well, you can take Norway, you can take Switzerland, they don't make the rules, and that we would be in that same position of what we were signed up to, we wouldn't be consulted as to what those rules
I can't help noticing that Norway and Switzerland are doing all right. The United Nations rates them respectively the best and second best places in the world to be born. They are the wealthiest and second wealthiest countries in Europe. So plainly it's possible to survive. Now, it is perfectly true. Swiss exporters must meet EU rules when they sell to the EU, just as they must meet Japanese rules when they sell to Japan. And it is true that they have no formal role over the making of those rules. We have a kind of 9% say. However, they have the huge advantage that they don't have to apply those rules, except in a very few exceptional circumstances, to their domestic economy, nor to their exports outside the EU. Now, if the Swiss flourish by doing that, 64% of Swiss exports are to EU markets. We, as a much more global country, only 44% of our exports go to the EU, and it's falling by them. It's 44% before this interview began. It's probably lower now because it's falling virtually by the second. How much more could we flourish if, instead of putting all our eggs in the basket of relations with the EU, began to look at the bits of the world that are growing? We're a global nation, merchant people, maritime people. How have we come to trap ourselves in the world's only stagnant customs union?
Mr. Hannan, I'll have to leave it there. Thank you very much indeed.